I was gonna ask you about this anyway, but since you brought her up,
Yeah.
Beyonce, what was it like dancing for
Beyonce.
Beyonce?
It's something you don't forget. So I've had the privilege to work with her quite a few times, and Beyonce is a unique individual. And not that I'm probably preaching to the whole choir right now, but I would say firsthand working with her in that she is someone who prioritizes the feeling of her art in real time with the experience of her art in real time. So let me give you an example. If it doesn't feel right for Beyonce, we could have rehearsed all day. And I remember coming in with a friend of mine who invited me when she did the Halo video. She's working with these new producers. They decided she really wanted a video to go to this song, and it was a no. Finally, they got to the point where we're going to make this happen. We had worked from 8 a.m. until about 6:30. We had choreographers come in, and mind you, I'm dancing with Beyonce. So the choreographers come in the morning. They teach the choreography, me, Beyonce, and another dancer. The choreographers leave. Now we practice for like 5-6 hours. After the practice, we get a break. Like this is a break around 6:30. Beyonce says it doesn't feel right. We've now practiced this dance for like a long time. We've learned it. She's like, it doesn't feel right. We need to start over. Literally starts over. It's like, we need new choreography. We need new choreography.
One thing if it's adjustment, she's like, no. You got to start the whole thing over again.
This is not matching the song. Like, so, and you know, again, being in a room with Beyonce, for all the dancers that have experienced it, you get to hear Beyonce sing and dance. It's magical. But it's one of those things where her work ethic is like nothing I had ever witnessed in my life to this day, to be completely transparent. And then the ability to put the movement in her body, feel the feeling of the song and the movement, and say it's not connected and it's unrelated and we have to start from the beginning, to me was bold. That was a boss move, and she is that. And so I think what you see on tour, what you see in music videos, is that Beyonce does prepare, and I got to witness that, and it really put a very lasting impression on me and how I applied myself in any room that I'm in. Preparation is my love language, and it needs to feel right, and the experience needs to be connected. Because if she would always say, like, if it doesn't feel right, then what's the point? And I'm like, well, that is a good point. But, you know, I, at this point, I'm absorbing everything she's saying in the room. And she's like, then she asked me, does it feel right to you? I don't know how it feels. Everything feels good right now. I'm living my dream. I'm in a room with you, girl. But it was one of those things that was one of the biggest takeaways, that it didn't matter. She is freaking Beyonce. She could be like, okay, we learned the choreography. I'll watch it on a video. I'm going home. She could just call any shot she want. The shot that she called, the order that she called was like, I'm going to rehearse it until it feels right for me.
And that's why she's Beyonce. So do you have Renaissance tickets, Allie?
You know what's funny is I do not have them, because it's just like Taylor Swift. Like, I don't know. There's a lot going on in that area of the world that I'm sure we can talk about. It's just a lot. And at the point right now of my priorities, I don't have the time. I don't have the luxury of the time at this current moment, as I launch a new show, as I work on my podcast. I talked about seasons, right? Keep the big things big and the small things small. This is a small thing that I can't get to just yet. However, if you do have an extra ticket, holla at me. You know what I mean?
Right. That doesn't mean that if some fall in your lap, you won't go, but you're just
yes, it doesn't mean I'm not trying or want to go. I'm just saying.
No, it did feel like quite a process. You know, some of my friends have gone through it. They were on the wait list. They got tickets. I was like, man, and I've seen her maybe about 5 times, and she ruins the concert experience, because it's hard to watch other concerts after you go to a Beyonce one, because she gives you so much, and you're just being mentally stimulated all the time on top of the music and the vibe and all of that. But, you know, I wondered if you might have a little bit better connections than the rest of us. It might be going in there to see Renaissance.
No more. You got way more connections than I do. Let's just put it. Let's be honest, okay? You know, let's be honest.
I don't know about all that. Well, what I do want to ask you about, though, is your transition, though. I mean, dancing. Well, actually, before we get to that transition, let me ask you this about Dance 100. That was actually filmed in London, correct?
Yes.
So how were you balancing that?
It was tough. I'm like, let me find the right word. It was challenging. So, you know, what I learned about this experience is nobody needs to care about what you want. It's a luxury if they do. So let me put that in perspective. Who wants to be the host of Dance 100? I do. I know that Dance 100 and Netflix needs a host, but I'm sure if I couldn't do it, they could find someone, right? Like, they could. who wants this to happen more than anyone was me, because this was my opportunity to be an individual host on a show, to show everyone that I could carry the hosting role as on my own, to have a new experience, and for this to be Netflix and one of the biggest streaming platforms, and for them to reach out to me without an audition, without a casting, and say, you are the right person for this job. But I learned that sometimes we conflate, or I can conflate, things that happen to me and that I get to do within my career with the fact that I think everyone else should care about it, or should at least be flexible in letting me get this. During this time, I had to figure out the mini solves to make this happen. And it was nobody else's responsibility but my own. For those of you that are listening are like, Allie, that's how life works. Good for you that you got it together. I'm thinking we're all going to be happy that I got this opportunity, and now we're just going to all like get to a yes. And the thing is, everybody else is focused on their individual things, right? They have things that are priorities to them. And so I had to find a yes in all the areas. One, travel during COVID. At that time, Netflix set was it was like isolated, right? Like COVID wasn't necessarily it's not over anytime, but they had guidelines, and I had to make sure that I was adhering to those guidelines. So with that, it was like, how do I needed a visa. We couldn't get it in time because the timing didn't work out to work in the UK for Peloton and just stay there and teach. The second thing was, now if I don't have a visa, I need to come back because my full-time job is Peloton, and that's what my commitment is. So I can't just give up a commitment or expect them to say, okay, bye, right? I have to do my job. And that is understandable. So now I have to get back and forth within a time frame to be there for the rehearsal, the script reads, and the filming of the show, and quarantine appropriately for their guidelines. Then I have to stop everything. The Nets, we're in season. We have games. I have to have a conversation with our ownership, with our entertainment team, and say like, well, I got a backup host. She has to come in. It was a lot of moving parts of the 63 jobs that we have that I had to actually find a solve for. And it was a moment, and I don't say this often, that I was proud of myself because I actually was able to get to a yes that worked respectively both parties, whether it was Allie and the Nets, Allie and Peloton, Allie and my Love Squad team, like Allie and my agents, like all of these things. I was able to figure out a yes where it did work for both parties, and I was able to show up and fulfill my obligations. It was very challenging. It was a sprint for about 3 months, a sprint of flights going back and forth pretty much every week or every other week. I was on a flight. I was also doing a new thing. So it wasn't like this was something that it's not like you take Allie from New York, put her in London and tell her to teach Peloton or host a Nets game or do a podcast recording. I'd never done this to this caliber before, all new folks. And so it was a lot going on, but I set myself on a sprint, and I said, for 3 months, you buckle down. There are no dinners. There are no I can't hang out with my friends. I'll put my friends on notice. Like I'm not icing you. I'm focused right now. I got to get to a finish line. And so it was, I will say I enjoyed every moment of it looking back. In the moment, I was just saving.
You've done it. Right. In the moment you were like, what did I do? Right. Yeah. Because sometimes I look at my calendar and I see like 35 things on there, and I was like, was I drunk when I decided to say yes to all of this? Like, why would I do this? But you do feel that sense of accomplishment after you've done it, and you know what you're made of, right? Now you know.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was, putting all the things I say in a Tabata class or things that I talk about at Love Squad events or on social media. It puts those things to the test, and I was able to protect my peace in that I did pray and meditate every day. Like I did take care of myself in the process. I just really had to, the extra things, I really had to communicate with my family and my friends and my coworkers and say, there's nothing personal here. So if you get a vibe that's not aligned with the vibe you normally get, it's not you, it's me. Just give me some grace,